The Mortician, a natively shot 3D movie filmed in rainy Louisiana. And there are some fantastic walking in the rain 3D shots that have a nice orange pigment that show up very vividly against the night background. This movie was made in 2011, right when 3D was taking off as the next great thing. So at that time, filming in 3D probably seemed like a good way to stand out and get the movie sold. It didn't work, and it appears that aside from a festival, this was unreleased in theaters and gradually trickled out in a handful of home video formats over the next few years. The 3D version appears to have only been released in Germany and Russia on Blu-ray. Method Man, probably the best-known member of the rap supergroup Wu-Tang Clan, playing a timid pushover of a character. Anyone seeking out this movie because they're a fan of his will probably be disappointed to discover that this is a slow and brooding character study with little in the way of action and even less in common with Method Man's stage persona. Playing a mortician by day, taxidermist by night. Enormous time is spent showcasing that he has this side gig as a taxidermist, which makes for some occasionally interesting 3D moments if you are okay with seeing dissected animals. It almost felt like they were setting up a Norman Bates-type character, but so far as I can tell, it has no role in the story, and at a certain point the idea just goes away and never returns. Likewise, there are a lot of postcard shots that seem to serve no particular purpose except to insert a bit of 3D scenery, inserting 3, 4, even 5 establishing shots between scenes. At times, it almost felt like watching someone's vacation video, if anyone vacations in rundown urban centers. Now, not that I was complaining, 3D shots are what I am here to see. And if 3D is what brought you to this movie as well, then it is a reasonable, pleasant watch. 3D likes it slow, and nothing happens quickly in this movie. It's edited in what I might describe as a 70s style, with long shots that can run 10 to 20 seconds between edits. By comparison, a Marvel movie rarely goes over 5 seconds. As long as you are in the mood for it, it makes for an interesting stereo show. There are a handful of interesting shots. Here, for example, is a hiding spot only a stereographer would choose. There are several moments like this of metallic assemblies of one sort or another. 3D does love a good junk pile, and not only do we see it in garbage on the street, but also in getting a nice look at the mortician's tools. They give us almost like a nice steel sculpture feel. Now, probably due to limitations of the camera, the 3D is more vivid with things that are close. Here is a shot that shows just how flat a natively shot 3D movie can be. This probably happened because the shot called for the camera to pan between two positions that are different distances away. So unless you have a rig that has programmable motorized settings or an octopus for a camera assistant, it's not going to be possible to adjust the stereo settings on the fly. So you have to choose something that works for both positions. And in 3D world, compromise means flat. Now, they do get some very nice extreme close-ups on occasion, but as it is with most natively shot 3D movies, there is an occasional shot with a difference in focus between the eyes, make one eye a bit blurrier than the other. 80s 3D movies were terrible for that sort of thing. It is curious how the eye can still work with it, although it gets a little fatiguing after a while. If you have your 3D system handy, or goggles, check out this demonstration. Notice how your brain will still complete the shots and give the illusion that you are seeing the sharpest image while only using the soft side as a kind of depth map. Although there is an initial dip in perceived quality, the sharpness of this image doesn't get any worse as the blur continues, and the illusion of depth won't entirely fail until the blur reaches extreme levels, revealing that, in a way, all stereo images are a 3D conversion done by our brain. Now, as for a story, to their credit, the director and method man did keep my attention through 40 minutes of not much happening. The atmosphere in the first half really worked for me. What's unfortunate is it felt like it was setting up for a spooky thriller, and that's just not at all where it ended up going. And where it did go, just didn't need that 40 minutes of exposition. At that point, which is about the midpoint, it changes to what I feel was a different movie, and the transition I had to watch a couple of times to understand. It was, to me, such an oddball chain of events that I was convinced that I had missed something. The second half seemed to me like what you might get if you assembled all the cutscenes from an episode of Law and Order, a rushed retelling of a suspect's family dysfunction that on its own might have worked as a concept for a movie. But here, it just fits very awkwardly. Now, at the end of the movie, we get some of the more beautiful 3D shots, which are found in what you might describe as an extended epilogue. For me, it represented a third tone shift that might have been more at home in a relationship drama, like, say, a Hallmark Mortician's Christmas. So just another awkwardly fitting piece. The entire movie might make a good study for a screenwriter. You might use it to ask yourself, if this was your movie, what would you change to make it work? Would you cut the moody opening, or would you scrap the family drama and insert a ghost story? What information would we need to make the epilogue feel at home with the rest of the narrative? How would you show that interchange visually? For what we do get in this movie, it's all well shot, and it has pleasant enough 3D, especially for those who like to find something filmed in 3D. But a dry and disjointed story reveal that sometimes movies are obscure for a reason.